We are YouTube live now.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Eliza?
Yes, I'll begin. Good afternoon, everyone, and a warm welcome from Symbiosis Center for Emotional Wellbeing. My name is Elisa, and I am the junior counselor from SKU, and I will be your host today. As we observe Alcohol Awareness Week from 3rd to the 9th of July, we are hosting this webinar called Pouring Clarity, Catching Up with Alcohol Awareness. So the theme for this year is understanding alcohol harm. And it is a burning topic for our society as a whole, where alcohol usage is very common. It is something that is even very normalized, but understanding the consequences, hazards, and effect is something that is the need of the hour. So we're thrilled to have you join us as we dwell into the complexities and consequences of alcohol use and misuse. So throughout the webinar, we aim to provide valuable insights, share the risks to health, potential for addiction, and the social impacts. So considering all of this, today with us, we have Dr. Rahul Bagle, who is a psychiatrist and the deputy head of SKU, and also Ms. Khushbu Agarwal, who is the psychological counselor with SKU. They will be guiding us today. So welcome, Dr. Rahul and Khushbu.
Yeah, thank you
Thank
for
you
the
so
kind
much, Alyssa.
introduction, Elisa.
It's great
Yeah.
to have you here both with us. Beginning with why this day is important, when it comes to alcohol use, are there like any important facts for us to know that would shed light on why observing this Alcohol Awareness Week is important?
Yes, absolutely, Elisa and Khushbu. I would like to bring into attention and awareness of all of the audiences that every 10 seconds, a person dies from alcohol-related causes. It is something which is constantly happening around us, and we may not be that aware or that serious about the consequences, what happened because of alcohol use. And as per WHO, World Health Organization's fact sheet, there are around 2.6 million deaths caused by alcohol consumption in 2019. So these are on an average deaths, and it's now 5 years far. So we need to get the recent data also. And of this 2.6 million deaths, 1.6 million deaths were from some kind of non-communicable diseases such as injuries or so. And some of the disorders, deaths were due to communicable diseases as well. The most worrisome thing is the highest proportion of alcohol attributable deaths, that is 13%, were from young people in the age of 20 to 40 years, which is the productive lifespan of their age. Yeah, Khushbu, would you like to bring any more facts related to the alcohol use and its hazards?
With alcohol use, there's a lot of harm where in terms of we see that major domestic violence cases are because of under the influence of alcohol. And due to alcohol, there's a lot of influence on child abuse as well. One of the parent is under the influence of alcohol, which causes child abuse as well.
So there are many key facts we can get from World Health Organization's fact sheet, which was in the public domain, which is in the public domain, that alcohol attributable disease burden arises from injuries as road traffic accidents also. And in 2019, there were recorded almost 3 lakh deaths from alcohol related road accidents, and almost 1.5 lakh deaths were caused by someone else drinking also. So these are the facts related to alcohol. And apart from the health hazard, there are other concerns which have been due to alcohol. And sure, there are some concerns because of suicides happening under influence of alcohol or because of alcohol use also. Yeah, Khushbu, any more facts or any more comments you would like to make on this or something else, please?
No, sir, that's it. You briefly spoke about major facts.
Yeah, so what people
Right.
usually, yeah, yes, Elisa, please take this.
Like, sir, as you mentioned that, there are a lot of effects of alcohol use, and these are very concerning when you hear about it in numbers. despite all of it, we see that, alcohol, like socially drinking alcohol is very acceptable or, very normalized. And I think even at times I have heard this phrase that people use, alcohol is good for the heart or the wine is good for the heart. Is there actually any reality to a statement like that?
Yeah, so this was around 2000 or 2005 that there was a study published by Lancet, which is very esteemed journal in the medical sciences, that some of the effects of alcohol are on the good cholesterol, which is called HDL cholesterol, and that is getting better. And that's how they try to say, the study, whoever were conducting this study, they said that a moderate amount of alcohol is good for the heart's health. So this was the study in 2003 or 5 something. And just recently, in a last year, there were some studies based on the risk versus benefit. Like, people considered in that generation or in that span that, okay, alcohol is good for our heart. So maybe that generation started using it on a moderate basis, considering that it is something good for heart. But we were forgetting two major things in this study. And I'm just sharing here that the Lancet had to withdraw that study from their journal. And this has happened only very rarely. Lancet, such a esteemed journal, has never withdrawn their any kind of a article or any kind of a publication. And they had to withdraw this article because of the fact they got later on about alcohol. So one of the important fact of alcohol is there is not going to be a moderate alcohol for anyone at the moment. Because alcohol, being a psychoactive component which has the ethyl alcohol, which is commercially available in market, it has a property to make people tolerant and dependent on it. So people, once they start using it, they will feel like to have it multiple times or frequent times, and they will start requiring it on larger quantity, and it would be difficult to stay on a moderate range to get the similar effect. So that is the inherent property of alcohol as a compound, or ethyl alcohol as a compound. And the second most worrisome thing is, however, protection was so-called claimed through that study on the heart's good cholesterol, it was all countered by the number of cancers being diagnosed because of alcohol. So almost 5% of the deaths occurring are because of alcohol, and almost each of the body organs can go through cancer and some other major illnesses because of alcohol. So when that study emphasized on the protective role of HDL, there are many other ways that you can be protecting your heart, and nobody wants to have alcohol to just protect their heart or to just rationalize their drinking, which used to happen in that time. But there are many hazards. And if may I share my screen here, so people will get an idea that what all hazards are possible because of alcohol. So let me check if I can share my screen here. That will give a overall idea to the people. So what people usually consider that the alcohol damages their liver, that the common understanding what people have. Let's start with that. What people consider that it is the damage happening in the liver, and people may say that it is my liver, something is not able to tolerate, and all in a fun way that they can say about. So fatty liver, liver cirrhosis, liver cancer, these are all happening because of alcohol. And they are quite common in our society. When you go to any general hospital, you will see many patients been admitted with alcohol history, and they will be having alcoholic liver diseases. And fatty liver is quite common. There are other reasons also for fatty liver, but alcohol is the one of the most common reason what we can cite here. Apart from that, when people start using alcohol, the risk of oral oropharyngeal cancers or larynx and throat cancer also increases, because alcohol is irritant by property, and it is being in acidic nature, it damages the epithelial lining. So cancers are more likely to occur in people consuming alcohol. Then the heart conditions, although they protected HDL as one of the factor which the good cholesterol, there are more chances of hypertension, heart failure, arrhythmia, and cardiomyopathies, that the cardiac musculature getting some kind of ailments. And this is because of various causes of alcohol on the blood vessels, including the dehydration which is causes, and the further damages on the heart. So it is contrary that to the study that there are heart diseases also likely to occur with alcohol use. There are mucosal damages when the alcohol gets into our gastrointestinal system. There is gastritis, what people usually see, or pancreatitis is also something we see that young people getting admitted because of pancreatitis recently. So alcohol can be one of the contributing factor to that. And the esophageal or stomach cancer, colon cancer, these are all attributable due to alcohol as one of the factor. The other damages which are also equally important like numbness, neuritis, neuropathies do occur because of alcohol, because it is proven that alcoholic neuropathy, and also it complicates the diabetes. Like alcohol brings about the empty calories in that person. There is no nutrient compound, there is no vitamin or something. And actually some vitamins get depleted in the system when people drink alcohol, such as thiamine, which is a very important uh, vitamin in the brain system and carbohydrate metabolism. So damage to it leads to memory disturbances, some kind of syndromes like Korsakoff syndromes and all. So we don't want to go into the details, but we need to understand that alcohol damages brain also. As we work in mental health professionals, what I would like to tell people that the equally the liver is getting damaged, the brain is also getting damaged, and this should not be hidden, or this should not be disguise, because there is equal damage to brain occur. There are studies when a person is having a binge kind of alcohol, or sometimes like people say that I drink only socially or so. When they drink socially or when they drink only occasionally, they are likely to binge on it. They drink it because they know that we are not going to drink it again. So let's have all the fun. So this is what the human psychology plays into role. And when they have the binge, there is a damage to the neurons also. The equal number of liver cells, what we say, getting damaged, almost similar or more number of neurons getting damaged. And you might have seen some friends that they are not able to remember when they were under influence of alcohol, and possibly these are the damaged neurons they were not able to restore because they lost their memory formation when they had this alcohol, and what we call it as a blackout, that they are not able to recollect during this phase of intoxication. And so all systems are getting affected. And importantly for young generations, like erectile problems and impotence, these are also common in males as well as females. Females have a different effect on alcohol because females have a hormonal cycle, menstrual cycle, and the effect of alcohol varies on gender. Maybe we can discuss it in some next point. But this is all I want to bring forward, that each and every system of our body, including bones, muscles, and everything is getting affected, brain, liver. So there is no organ left which is not getting damaged because of alcohol. Yeah. Yes, Elisa.
Right, as you clearly have shown from this image that it's not just, one part of your body that gets affected. There's so many different aspects of a person that gets affected. So, it just also makes me wonder that beyond the physical aspect of a person, does it also affect like the psyche or, how a person behaves or acts with the people around them?
Definitely. There's a study on alcohol and crime, like according to the National Institute on Alcohol Abuse and Alcoholism. They have clearly associated alcohol abuse or harm with the increased risk of criminal behavior, including theft. So there's this impairment in judgment, and inhibitions have been decreased, due to which the person's impulses have been on loose. So there's a lot of criminal activities, a lot of lying, a lot of self-esteem issues, insecurities, which impact the behavior. So there's another research in a journal of alcoholism where they have clearly shown that alcohol is linked with dishonest behavior. So a lot of times you might have seen that people who drink alcohol might lie to get their ends meet. So they might ask for a lot of money to finance their alcohol. So that's one of the dimension as well. Another is insecurity, where there's a relationship between alcohol and dependency and mental health issues, which Dr. Rahul would also be covering later on, where he would also be talking about how it impacts the brain and different mental health issues as well. So That's it. So alcohol does have an impact on behavior.
So it
Okay,
changes
so
the personality also. What I hear from the studies cited by Khushbu, that the person doesn't remain the same when they start using alcohol on a regular basis, and this body also, or his or her body also doesn't remain the same when the alcohol enters into their regular habits, or even for some occasions.
Definitely.
right, it seems that as you mentioned that priorities of a person also change. Like if somebody is using alcohol as often, their priority will be getting more alcohol for themselves, and that could easily lead to doing a lot of things that aren't that shouldn't be done. So
Yes,
as you okay.
definitely.
Right. And all of these are very concerning factors. So, when beyond just like affecting a person's psyche, like immediately how does one person go from just simply socially drinking to, harmful use to then an addiction? How does that even happen?
Yes, I think before going to this, we should also discuss about what happens when the alcohol enters in our body system. Should I take this also
Definitely.
ahead? Yeah.
Yes, definitely.
Yeah, so when people have alcohol, so alcohol comes in a different format at different locations. Like what we see in our Indian context, like there may be hard liquors and some kind of alcohols where the alcohol levels are less. So hard liquors, usually what they are called whiskey, rum, scotch, or vodka, they will have around 30 to 50, 55% of alcohol in their content. And what usually young generation starts from beer or some breezers, and then again going to wine or some other alcohol contents. So it may range from starting from 4 to 8% alcohol in some breezers or other content beers, and then going to in wines it may be 20 to 30% also at max. So when a person consumes alcohol and they drink it, it gets absorbed in their system through the gastrointestinal tract. The alcohol gets into their bloodstream, and it starts showing effect on all the organs. So initially, it makes the people experience a state of calmness, mostly what we see. And this kind of a calmness, because alcohol is a CNS depressant. The ethyl alcohol, it is working on some receptors of the brain called GABA receptors, and gives a person a sense of relaxed, calm state. And that is what usually we see, that people, when they drink alcohol, they will tell that we feel calm, relaxed after some stress and all. And that's why they prefer to have alcohol at some occasions. So the same happens, they start feeling calm and relaxed. And what also happens that it is the property of alcohol that they start getting difficulty in speech, like dysarthria, what we call it, because there are some centers in the brain which control their speech output or which control their motor balances, and the people will start getting difficult to walk or balance or coordinate their body movements. That's the reason that it is not been advised to drink and drive, what we see, because people, if they are going to lose their judgment on motor abilities, if they are not going to be more attentive, if they are not in their perfect consciousness, then it is a risky thing that whatever they are, if they are operating a machine or if they are operating any vehicle. And that's the reason it is not advisable to use any kind of alcohol if people are planning to have any machinery use or driving experiences. This is the effect of alcohol on their system's initial effect. It may last up to 2 to 3 hours. Some people usually feel that they are getting relaxed and they may fall asleep also after that. But if the quantity alcohol is too high, then some complex changes happen in the neurochemicals, including dopamine and serotonin, and the person may get disinhibited also, like whatever inhibitions the person keeps in their mind, like okay, I'm not supposed to behave like this, okay, this is something I can't tell them, okay, this is something I don't want to bring into attention in this premises or in this social meeting. When this kind of a control people have, they have this control from the frontal brain of lobe of brain, that okay, we are supposed to behave in a sensible mature way. This inhibition is gone, and they start using abusive words also at times. They may start getting into some fights, altercations, and that also becomes possible, that the person will behave very in a aggressive, violent way when they are drunk, or they will be overtly talkative, and that is not their inner nature. Sometimes whatever is hidden inside their suppressed mind may be bringing on the face that time. There is also a possibility of fall, because as we see that there are people who are not going to get the balance. They may fall easily on a slippery surface, or they may not be able to uh, 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 use the staircase as well, and they may fall in the staircases. There are many reports that it would be surprising to know that people, when getting under influence of alcohol, they have drawn in 1.5 feet bathtub. So this is something very unacceptable. Like many people, there was a famous celebrity also 3, 4, 5 years back, when her report came, post-mortem report, that she appeared to be drawn because of alcohol influence. So it was unacceptable in our community. It is common in United States and some countries when people are having a bath and they want to have some alcohol or so. And when the alcohol effects get too much high, they are not able to bring themselves away from that 1.5 or 2 feet of bathtub, and they unfortunately get drawn in that condition. And this is the property of alcohol, that it can make a person getting drawn in 2 feet of bathtub. And so we cannot claim that alcohol will not damage me because I am not drinking it that much, because it is going to work in a same way to everyone, and it is not going to spare anyone despite any kind of their limits, or despite any kind of, because anybody can get into any kind of accident under influence of alcohol when their coordination and their motor controls are not in a proper sense. So this is something about the alcohol, what happens in their motor and neuronal systems. Well, so people usually start with social drinking, what you were asking, Eliza, that people, especially young age people in the celebration mode, or what we see, there are some social promotions also, like some advertising in a deceited way, like they will advertise for something else like a soda or so, but some celebrities eventually promote their brands. So the brands are identified as what their brands are about. And this is how the promotion happens. It becomes a socially acceptable thing, and people start realizing that okay, somebody can have it on some kind of a fun or some kind of a celebration mode. And when this becomes a celebration, association with celebration, it is an emotional connect that is happening, that each celebration, when we get it associated with alcohol, and the it potentiates that effect, maybe people feel more fun or more enjoyment because of alcohol's effect of CNS depression. So every time there is a celebration, the mind is going to bring them again, why not alcohol this time also? This is how the celebration and this kind of a thing has been associated with the young generation. And some individuals do get into stressful situations also. We don't want to restrict like only celebrations where people get into alcohol use. Sometimes then it becomes part of a stress handling coping mechanism also. So it is on a social use initially what people start with. And as we discussed earlier, that there is a property of alcohol to make people dependent on it and tolerant to the quantity of alcohol, there are more frequent chances and more frequent occasions that the person will make. Life situations are going to be there, any kind of achievement, celebrations. But to just make the moment, there will be a thought from that person or the group of those persons, particularly the peer pressure, that let's have the alcohol again, and it will turn to abuse, like they will start abusing it
Yes.
in excessive way. So abuse is something like previously they were having on a social drink, they were laughing, having good moments, maybe keeping themselves safe, making sure that everyone is reached home safe and everybody is fine, checking with each all of their friends. Thereafter, when the abuse happens because of tolerance and dependence or any other factors, there is an excessive amount of alcohol being consumed, and this kind of protection goes away, and some risk factors start increasing. When the abuse happens,
Yes.
people may, yeah, Khushbu, want to add something? Yeah, please share. Yeah.
Yes, there was this NIMHANS study on adolescent drinking behavior in India, which
Hmm.
highlights that the peer pressure is a very critical factor in the initiation of alcohol use. So the study found that because the peer want to get socially accepted and there's this desire to fit in, which often leads to this risky behavior among youth. So they want to dance but they're not able to dance, so they think of drinking and then they feel that the inhibitions have been reduced, so they feel like dancing. They're not able to talk to people, so they think of drinking and their inhibitions are reduced, then they're able to talk. So there's this whole concept with youth as well, they're not able to do something, so
Yeah.
they look back at
Yeah.
alcohol as a coping mechanism as
Yes.
well.
Yes. Yeah, so this also do happen. Thanks for pointing out that, Khushbu, that peer pressure is something we need to discuss separately, I would suggest. Now we just see how the pattern of alcohol consumption goes from use, abuse, and the next is the harmful use. That they
Yes.
start using alcohol in that quantity that can endanger their life or make them more at risky situations, such as drink and driving, sometimes stealing money from home, especially the young population or so. And this is what the harmful pattern of alcohol use happens because of the tolerance and develop dependence. And then when it has reached to a stage where the other priorities are set apart, like a normal healthy productive age young adult who is supposed to work on their career, who is supposed to have some good moments with their friends, who is supposed to be in a healthy relationship, these all things fall apart, and that person's career, profession, that person's interpersonal relationships, that person's finances, these all get in a mutilated state or very devastated state just because of alcohol, because their priority becomes alcohol. Like suppose there is a person who had been working in a organization and they start getting into alcohol, they will start remaining absent. This is what the common thing what we get. Because of alcohol hangover, they will find it difficult to start with their days. There may be further challenges because of the finances. In young adults, if they are like, we see that education age is now up to beyond some age also, and the alcohol starting age is also reduced. Like previously it was found that alcohol was introduced to people around 20, 21 years of age as per the surveys. But now somehow young adults may getting, or adolescents may also getting some alcohol through some or other ways. And as the age is reducing, the risk factors are increasing because early damage has started setting in. So there are some of the factors which lead people to the dependence journey, and then socio-occupational impairment, what we call when people are not able to function well as a contributive member of the community, and they find difficult to manage their own daily tasks, and they may be struggling with their finances, their interpersonal relationship, and their professional developments also. So this is how use, abuse, harmful use, and the disorder takes place. And this is what the alcohol can make to any individual who is susceptible for this use. Yeah.
Right. So what I've understood is that, it can easily shift from using to abusing and then turn to proper harmful use and then leading it on to disordered addiction, reaching up to that end. So, like having to be careful at the starting stage only is important. And as Khushbu mentioned that a lot of times because, people are used to wanting to drink in social situation because maybe they get a little more comfortable. Maybe, it helps them reduce their anxiety a little. And overall, even when around people, when there are people who are around you who are drinking themselves, you get, talked into it. And then there's the peer pressure also that plays a role in it, right?
Yes, yes, absolutely.
So, as because there are these factors, it's not that every person who is socially drinking or just, drinking with their friends ends up using excessively or using too much alcohol. Is it that, there are some people who are a lot more vulnerable and their chances of them using excessive alcohol is much more?
Yes. So I would like to throw light on this, that there is no form of alcohol consumption that is risk free. And that is not a sentence that I have created. It is from some esteemed journals. Because as we discussed, that it is not just the health damage. These are the other accident, other kind of falls, injuries, interpersonal damages. Because you don't know that in some moment when under influence of alcohol, when a person becomes very angry or aggressive also, you don't know that the relationship will get spoiled and it will not be healed. So these are the things that we usually see, that people get into this thing because those suppressed thing, when they are suppressed on the alcohol uh, intoxication, that can spoil the relation also. It could be husband wife or it could be friend circle also. So this is what, no form of alcohol is safe or risk free, that any amount of alcohol to anybody is going to carry equal amount of risk. But coming to the second part of this question, that whether there are people who are going to get more likely dependent on alcohol. So even if people who are not dependent on alcohol, they are having the similar form of risk associated. That cancer will not say that okay, किसी ने ज्यादा ड्रिंक की तो उनको ज्यादा कैंसर होना चाहिए, किसी ने कम ड्रिंक की है तो उनको कम कैंसर होना चाहिए. So each body system is different, and whatever the carcinogens are exposed, and if alcohol is one of the contributing factor, it is going to amount to cancer based on other risk factors for cancer also. So what happens to some individuals, particularly some genetic predisposition or family history, what we see that those individuals who have a family history of alcohol use or dependence, their children or their first degree relatives are more likely to get into alcohol use disorder if they start drinking, and especially if they start drinking in early ages, because dependence sets in early. There may be some people who can be found out in peers that okay, somebody is drinking alcohol for last 10-20 years, but they are regularly drinking on weekends and this much. Probably they don't have a family history, so that their brain is not getting dependent on that, because their genes are not metabolizing alcohol that fast, and that's why they are not getting into dependence. Or probably there are other coping mechanisms. So there is not just genetic, other coping mechanisms or how they regulate their alcohol consumption is something else, but they are still at risk with other factors. So it is not like they
Yes.
are risk free. Just getting alcohol use disorder or mental health and behavioral health conditions because of alcohol use, as per ICD, they are more likely to occur when somebody is having those genes, like RAS gene and some other genes are there. And it is
Yes.
found that alcohol runs in families also, like those individuals who have this kind of alcohol consumption in their family members, their close relatives or first degree relatives are more likely to get alcohol dependence. And that is unfortunately what we have found in some studies also.
And
But that
also
doesn't
along
mean
with
that those who don't have family history will not have it, because it is all epigenetics. If your family doesn't have a disorder in alcohol use disorder or mental behavioral disorders due to alcohol in your family, and that's the reason people are using it, probably it will be there in the next generation, because you are making those changes in your brain systems and your genetic structures. So this is also the part. Yeah.
yes, personality factors are also to be considered as a predisposition as well. Someone who has high neuroticism and low in consciousness, researchers have said that they are more prone to alcohol harm and abuse. So it's not just genetic factors, but there's like a multi-dimensional view as well. There are different factors as
Yeah.
well. So someone who has high levels of impulsivity and sensation seeking are also more prone to alcohol use and harm.
Yes, so thanks for bringing into that attention, Kush, because we usually follow the biopsychosocial model. We can't
Yes.
just rely on alcohol family history. If somebody doesn't have a biological history of alcohol use or family history of alcohol, that doesn't mean they are at less risk. If they are psychologically having impulsivity in their nature, or if they have some kind of ADHD traits or some other conditions, they are more likely to explore new substances and alcohol as well, and their brain is going to work in a different way as compared to other people who don't have these conditions. So they are more likely to get prone to alcohol use disorder because of their brain condition, or because of their mental reservoir or their personality components also. So
Yes.
these psychological factors, and let's come to the social factors also. We should not ignore them, because this is something what we have. So what World Health Organization also promotes as per Sustainable Development Goals 3.5, and some projects that they have done like Safer and some other projects with their partners, that reducing the accessibility. So it is something which is working in well in some some kind of a states also, like in India we have seen that couple of states who have banned it, but they are not able to totally remove it. So we need to make sure that there is less accessibility. The only reason of banning alcohol is to reduce accessibility or making it a controlled kind of a substance, rather than promoting it widely and people finding it easily accessible, especially at young age. So in that way, it prevents that people are not going to start in early age because it is not accessible if it is efficiently banned or if it is not available. So in that way, it will help. But it may also sound that sometimes people will start using it through other ways, or they will start finding the ways. Like in COVID times, there were news that people started making alcohol in their homes, and that was really shocking, and that was really worrisome also, because what they prepared, that was eventually methyl alcohol, which is the poison, and the most kind of a disastrous thing, that the poisoning with methyl alcohol takes their lives away. So that also happened, that when the ban happens, people find out the ways. This is because there is a predisposition that people who are willing to seek alcohol, they are going to seek it through any or other means. And even if bans are there, they will try to find out the ways. Like I have been aware that people in one of the states go to one union territory. I don't want to put the name. That from that state they go to union territory on weekends, have the alcohol there, and come back because they know that their state has a ban on alcohol. So people are going to find out the way outs or loopholes, and banning helps in a way to reduce the accessibility, but that doesn't totally eliminate the risk. And people, those who are predisposed because of biological or psychological factors, they are going to find it in through any other ways. So this is what a person who will get into dependent on alcohol or not, that we see. But that definitely doesn't reduces the risk even if they are not dependent on it. So no need to mention that if somebody is not dependent or not regularly using, that doesn't rule out they are not at risk. So everybody is equally at risk if they are using alcohol at any moment.
And most of the time, there's this hypothesis also where it's a self-medication hypothesis,
Yeah,
which have been studied where because people are not able to regulate their emotions and therapy is more expensive. So they choose to take alcohol as a self-medication to soothe their emotions and psychological distress. So that's also something maybe Dr. Rahul, you can shed light on
yeah,
how this
yeah,
self-medication.
yeah. So self-medication is something that people, it is a clinical term, by the way. It is not people will be aware about, and they are not aware that they are using alcohol just because of this, because this kind of a psychological awareness is not brought into their attention. But
Exactly.
what we also see, that people would rationalize for anything. Like they will say that this is something that external person is behaving me like this, or this person said me like this, or my life situations are like this. That's why I'm using alcohol. Otherwise, I don't use alcohol. And many times family also support that way. That his life conditions had been with many hardships, many challenges, and that's why he got into alcohol. So this is how people are shifting the onus, that when we are choosing as a mature adult, we should bear that capacity, that we have chosen it for, and now we have to face the consequences. We can't escape away from what consequences alcohol will have if we are not aware, or if we are not informed about this alcohol harms. So the goal of this webinar is that people should be aware about what harm the alcohol causes, and then it is up to people what they want to do with their lives. So what happens when you share that people are not people are saying, citing that the therapy is costly or so, but this is just a rationalization what we see, because alcohol has a dependence property. If they start sitting and counting how much amount they have put on their alcohol use or parties, that would eventually come to be less than the therapy cost what we see, because there is affordable therapy also available. If people are struggling with their emotions, we will definitely recommend them they reach out to nearby health professionals or look for affordable therapies. But don't indulge in any kind of a self coping mechanisms which are hazardous, or which are going to give more damage and more mental health condition. That is also equally important. Like they might initially feel that this is working temporarily just to cover up, but when it is going to burst out, it is going to be unprecedented, or it will be difficult to manage, and it will need more attention from medical, psychological, and mental health aspect, and it will need more interventions and more cost on the burden. So there are studies on this also, like whatever amount is been, like that time, if we remember during COVID time, that there was in some places it was announced that because of the financial reasons, the alcohol had to be, shops had to be opened. So this is how some in some way that the governments do depend on revenue coming through alcohol, and that is huge. But what cost is being spent on damages happening because of alcohol, like cancer hospitals, how much cost has been involved into that? What are the medical admissions that are happening because of alcohol damage, whether it is from, whether it is pancreatitis or gastritis, or whether it is any falls, injuries, or accidents. If we cumulatively cost make the cost benefit analysis, there is going to be more damage for sure with alcohol use consumption, rather than whatever the revenue the government might be getting. but here we need some kind of a policy making or strategies on a higher level, and I hope this happens soon. Yeah.
I think to solve one problem, we come up with another problem and then
Yeah.
it goes on and on. So with
Yes.
alcohol, to increase the finance also, there is a lot of domestic violence happening and child abuse.
Yes.
So the human resources also is getting
Yes.
affected in
Yeah.
here.
Yeah, absolutely. So priorities also change. Like many times we see that because of the financial crunches, people will not attribute what amount of alcohol is causing these financial crunches, but they will start citing reasons. Like there was a marriage in family, there was some kind of a fees to be paid for the children, but they will not count the alcohol, what quantity they have spent on alcohol. And that is also something worrisome because it becomes a way to rationalize why I am drinking rather than accepting that we have been using it and we need to stop it. And that's how the therapy plays into role, that how the counselors or the psychologists can help the clients to understand which is a better coping mechanism, and you may choose based on these informed ideas. Yeah.
Definitely. So
Yes,
can
Elise.
I just bring
Yeah,
one
please.
point?
Yes, please.
So there's something known as cognitive dissonance as well. I'll put it in lay terms what it actually means for the general public, where the behavior is not matching your thoughts. So people come up with a lot of rationale to match their behavior, but instead you can also change your behavior to match your thinking. So you don't have to change your thinking, come with a lot of rationality to prove why you're doing what you're doing. So, in simple terms, just change your behavior to match your thinking. You don't have to change your thinking to prove what you're doing is right. So, that's simply the last thing that I would like to say.
Yeah.
Right. So as you know, like Dr. Rahul and Khushbu mentioned, there's so many effects that happen because of alcohol use and how easy it is to, reach out to alcohol because, it fixes the problem for a small amount of time. But in the long run, the costs are way, way, way higher. And, as Khushbu just like slightly went upon domestic violence, I think when we think about alcohol use and the impact of it overall the domestic violence is also pretty high. So, Khushbu, do you have anything to say about how domestic violence and alcohol abuse goes together, or how much alcohol use mitigates or increases domestic violence?
So I was just looking for stats and I came up with that 33% of cases of domestic violence were under the influence of alcohol abuse. The perpetrator was under the alcohol abuse. And in child abuse, 37% of the cases were such that the person who abused was under the influence of alcohol. So there are 37 cases of child abuse due to alcohol influence and 33% of domestic violence cases under the influence of alcohol. So it's pretty huge.
Almost 1 in 3 domestic violence is happening because of alcohol. I think we should count that also, like how much damage the families will be going through because of this. And it can be happening in all strata. It doesn't depend that any particular socio-economic strata will be affected by it. These are quite widespread that all socio-economic strata may be affected because of domestic violence. And what happens in this violence is there is a loss of judgment and thinking abilities, and this disinhibition leads to some kind of aggressive or physically and verbally aggressive, and also it leads to some kind of a sexual aggressions also at times, what we have seen in some histories, uh, particularly through our observations and some studies, that many times people are more likely to get into risky sexual behaviors because their thinking and judgment is gone. So they might not be able to think about the contraception, or they might get into some high risk sexual behaviors, and that would ultimately lead to other complications also, including sexually transmitted infections or pregnancy and complicated and complications. So this is also something that we see with the domestic violence and other issues. Yeah. So whatever it was planned that a party is going to be fun, it all gets spoiled in most of the times when the alcohol starts showing. I just remember one of the lesson in our school days, although it was in a Sanskrit and it is a mythological, it is not something making relevant scientifically, but I just want to give here, cite it here. that whatever the ancestors of the generations from the Yadu Vansh, which was the Krishna's Vansh, what they say, the Yadav Vansh, what they used to say that time. We are just giving the mythological. I'm just going to give you the disclaimer. It is a mythological thing. There's nothing to do with this. We just want to encourage people to stay away from alcohol. That's why we are giving it as an example. So Yaduvansh got vanished because of some kind of a internal wars or some kind of a civil wars happened that was mentioned in that mythological story. And it said that one whole Pula got destroyed because of alcohol. That much power the alcohol has, that it can destroy one complete generation or one kind of a family, total family. And that is something, an example we should keep in mind when people are thinking about alcohol.
Right. So, like I think so far from all our discussion, I've understood that alcohol in general has like almost nothing we can say good about, or how badly it affects this. But despite how hazardous and how bad it is for health, we don't see alcohol bottles having those hazardous information. I think it would be actually helpful if bottles of alcohol also have some information like that, the way cigarette does, right?
Yes, yes, Eliza, absolutely. Yeah.
Do you want to talk about it, sir? Do you want to take it?
Yeah, Khushbu, please take it.
What I would personally consider as well is that, no matter how much you talk about it, like, on big cinemas board before the movie started, we've got weird images of what happens to people who smoke. And then there are so many things, campaigns going on. But I think it also comes down to the individual person as well, that, what the individual personal rationale is. So how we can bring that change is very difficult if we try to change each one's cognition. So definitely policymakers, government, all of these people have to come in, but again, they are benefited because of the finance and everything. So it's a vicious circle, you see. So um, here, everyone will think about the government benefiting, the policymakers, and different people benefiting. So as an individual, you might have to think what is best for you, because others won't think what's best for you. So here, it's the individual who needs to think that what's best for you, rather than letting others decide for you.
Yeah, so that's the true thing that many times people don't know whether. So I frequently see that people start question like what makes whether they are. There is a simple tool what I can share here. If Eliza, can I share that how people can get aware whether their drinking is problematic or does it need any kind of a support? So maybe we can share that in on this platform, so people are aware about that also. Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, so there is a very simple questionnaire called Cage questionnaire, and that I can share here so that people are aware whether when they need to seek help. So it has broken down into 4 questions, and starting with this acronym Cage, like, have you ever felt you should cut down on your drinking? So many times you see that people having alcohol on the next morning, they feel hangover or so, and they start thinking, this is enough now, I shouldn't have it again. This was the last and all. So this cut down is something, one of the question. If this arises in your mind, then there is definitely you need to seek help that how we can get some professional assistance to cut down your alcohol consumption. The second question is, have people annoyed you by criticizing your drinking? Like friends, peers, family members, spouse, if they start getting annoyed because how frequently you're drinking alcohol, or this is getting very wrong way and you should not be drinking alcohol. If these suggestions are being taken, being received from the any people around them, then it is, and they are annoyed also, then it is something to be worthwhile to think about whether they can consider to reach a mental health professional. Have you ever felt guilty about your drinking? So people start feeling guilty at some point that they don't want to drink, but what the property that alcohol has on the brain to sometimes CNS depression, that making a calm state, or getting dependent, and then to avoid withdrawal symptoms also. This also happens, like people start feeling withdrawal symptoms and they need to drink alcohol in that trap, and they may start feeling guilty that I don't want to drink alcohol, but I have to drink alcohol because I am not feeling well without alcohol. So this guilt may start happening. And the last question is eye opener. Like, have you ever had a drink first thing in the morning, which is at the very extreme stage of alcohol consumption? And till that point, most of the liver damage, most of the other health damage is already occurred. Like their muscle wasting has occurred, their neuropathies have started, and throughout the day they would need to have alcohol, and that would be something really worrisome on their physical, mental, and social health also. So this is the cage questionnaire, and the score of 0 or 1 suggests there is a low risk of problem drinking. If the answer is yes, the score is 1, and if the answer is no, the score is 0. And if the score of 2 and 3 is there, there is high suspicion of alcoholism, that it is more likely that the person has already surpassed some milestones on alcohol consumption disorder level. And the score 4 is the diagnostic, that there is a firm kind of alcohol use condition which is in a disorder format, and they need to seek immediate help because it is already started impacting their behaviors and emotions. Yeah.
I
Yes.
think seeing a questionnaire like that is really helpful to think, where we are standing or, at what level we are when it comes to consumption of alcohol. And hearing from our experts about the effects and consequences of alcohol abuse, it has definitely shed, light on how heavily it can impact us. And I think that is emphasizing the importance of informed choice.
Yes.
Because availability is there, but understanding the facts about alcohol and how it can impact a person leads us to making informed decisions or responsible decisions. So, by staying informed and reflecting on our behaviors, we can at least empower ourselves and we can make the good decisions regarding alcohol.
Absolutely, being aware. So the whole purpose of our this webinar is to make sure that audiences are aware of because this is Alcohol Awareness Week, and we want people to be aware that this is something what alcohol causes. And when they are aware, it becomes that person's responsibility whether to have it or not have it. Because what we see that when a person who is predisposed, like we discussed that what are the high risk factors that a person is going to be dependent, even though the risk factors are equal, but the dependence risk factors may be different, and they are more likely to get into it if the right information is not available with them. So having this information is crucial when somebody is aware that, oh, there is a family history, let me not start it, and so that I can be more on a healthy spectrum. That would be much appreciated. I think we are also forgetting, Khushbu and Eliza, about the gender things on alcohol consumption, because now what we see that many times previously, like some 20 years back, most of the males were using alcohol, but somehow what happened with smoking also, that initially the smoking was a main thing, and then it how somehow got into women's uh, gender also. The same is happening with alcohol, and it is fine that it is like we are not discussing any kind of a biases based on gender, but it is important to know that alcohol is more damaging to women, because alcohol gets metabolized very slowly in the female bloodstream because of the hormonal thing that I tried to point out in initial conversation, and it is going to give rise to a peak in a very less time. That alcohol concentration will rise very less time, and that is how it is going to be more damaging because of false accident, because the rapid rise in alcohol concentration of blood is going to be more damaging and increasing other risk also, like cancer and all. So that is how we need to be aware. And also about the pregnancy and other concerns where there is a infant, there is a childbearing
Fetal.
age particularly. So there are fetal alcohol syndrome and some other complications happening because of alcohol use during pregnancy, and that are also worrisome. So that is something I just thought to bring forward before we end this webinar. Yeah, anything you would like to share, Khushbu? Anything from this webinar or anything if we have missed out?
So I think we've comprehensively looked at everything.
So then now we'd be opening the floor for questions. So if anyone in the meeting or on YouTube would like to ask any question, they can either type it down in the chat box or unmute themselves and ask the question.
Yeah. Till the time we get some questions, I also would like to announce that Symbiosis University Hospital and Research Center in this location on Monday around 9 a.m. The students from Bachelor of Science, Mental Health Honors with Research, they are going to perform a skit on alcohol awareness. As we see that SUHRC, the Symbiosis University Hospital, is in close premises of villages in Mulshi Taluka. So there are people who may not be aware about the harms of alcohol. And through this initiative, Symbiosis Center for Emotional Wellbeing, through being a knowledge partner to BSc Mental Health, we are encouraging students to have this skit presentation for the general audiences in Hindi, so that they can also be aware about the hazards of alcohol consumption. Are there any questions, Eliza?
I don't think so. Also, I don't think anything from YouTube. But we also have Dr. Girija, the head of SKU with us. Dr. Girija, would you like to add anything?
Maybe Dr. Girija may be in some other work currently. So you can officially conclude this webinar, Eliza. And if there is a quick pointer that we can just suggest, that what we suggested also, that it should be an informed decision and people should be aware about what harms are going to be caused by alcohol, however the less quantity it may be, or however less frequently you might consider or rationalize it, or however you are going to consider that it is probably risk free for me. That is not applicable, because each and every drop of alcohol is going to have the similar risk with everyone without any bias, that is for sure.
Yes. I would also like to express my heartfelt gratitude to the panelists, Dr. Rahul and Khushbu, for being here and sharing their expert insight with all of us. It has been really helpful for me and for all those present here. And also, big thank you to all the audience who have stayed with us for so long, and thank you for being patient. Um, with this, I would like to end the webinar. Thank you, and I hope you all have a great day ahead.
Yes.
Thank you so
Thank you,
much,
Eliza,
Eliza.
for holding this. Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you. You can end the webinar.
So you can end the live and the webinar as well.